What's up everybody, I'm Gio and welcome back to Carvalho Creations, where I show you guys how to make some awesome props and projects of your own. Now today's video comes highly requested by a ton of you fantastic people, so I'm going to be showing you how to create Sam from the 2007 horror flick Trick or Treat. Now we're going to be using MonsterMud for this character today, and when it comes to character design, this dude is so deeply rooted in Halloween, I absolutely love it. So when you guys requested it, I was like, absolutely, yeah, of course I'm going to make this guy, because I mean, right? So if you guys are looking to do your MonsterMud characters and maybe transition from your typical tombstones and graveyard statues to something a little more detail oriented, this is going to be a perfect video for you because I do very limited sculpting here. We only sculpted the hands and a little bit of detail on the face, but for the most part, this is just material and PVC pipe. So this is going to be a really cool video. We got a lot to do. So instead of me sitting here talking to you guys for 25 minutes, why don't we go ahead and go wild? Alright, what's up everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to create Sam from Trick or Treat, from the movie Trick or Treat. And I want to go over the material list so you guys are going to know what you need to get this going. Now this is going to be very similar to our Leprechaun build. We're going to be using MonsterMud for this guy. Let's talk about what we're going to need. So definitely MonsterMud. We're definitely going to be needing some 1/2-inch PVC pipe, as well as different couplers, right? Different couplers to connect everything together. I always use PVC glue as well, so your structures are nice and strong for your characters to withstand not only the MonsterMud, but time, right? We're going to be using a little bit of chicken wire today to create the rib cage and the chest. I want to fill everything out. Now, typically, if I were doing this like you guys and I wanted to be really nice looking, I would go ahead and get myself a set of onesies to create the character. It'd be a lot easier for me, but I don't have any onesies and I'm not going to go buy any onesies for this project. So I'm going to be making mine out of just regular scrap material here. We're going to be using some upholstery foam to create the form, to fill them out a little bit. I have burlap here for the head, and to create the head itself, I went down to the store to see if I could just find a styrofoam ball or something. And you can use a ball for this and wrap it. Just don't have anything on hand for that, and I want to spend 20 bucks on a foam ball. So what I'm going to end up doing is taking these plastic bowls I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm using my great stuff to fill in the bowls. We'll be spritzing it with a little bit of water. Of course, I'm going to show you all the steps here, but to create the head size I want, so I can vary the shape of it and size of it, and then we'll be wrapping that with MonsterMud and burlap. We're also going to be needing a little bit of rope, so I got a Dollar Tree here to create the rope he has around his neck and any accessories. We're going to be using some spray adhesive to get our upholstery foam attached to our chicken wire here. You're going to need some screws, PVC, pipe cutter, stuff like that to get this project done. But again, we're going to be using a little bit of a 16-gauge wire as well for the hands. Now the hands are covered. His hands are covered, Sam's hands. So I'm probably only going to have to sculpt the fingertips. So we might be using some air dry clay. We might be using some cement clay. Either one will work for this project. So it doesn't really matter which one you want to do. It's just about the level of detail and drying time you want to wait for these different kinds of clay. So that's entirely up to you. So it's going to be a cool build. I hope you're excited because this dude definitely is. But why don't we go ahead and go wild? All right, to start off our project today, I'm just going to go ahead and start with the head. So what I'm doing is just taking my water here and giving it a generous coating inside those plastic bowls. And then I'll directly take my great stuff and fill up the bowls with the foam. Now, I don't want the head to be as big as these bowls, so I'm going a little bit more shallow than that, and then I'll be gluing the two halves together once this foam is cured. So just filling up the bottom a little bit, and then I'll set them off to the side, but I wanted to get this process started before I started the actual armature. Make sure to spritz the top of your foam as well to help it kick and expand further. If you don't do that, a lot of times it'll dry up eventually, but it'll be super hard and not really that good for you. Now for the base plate here, I cut this to about maybe 10 to 12 inches or so, but later on I'll go ahead and recut a larger piece because I end up adding the Trick or Treat bag that Sam typically has. So I go ahead and cut another piece after, but I started off with the 12-inch piece. And then here, to start with the body, I cut the PVC pipe the legs of him because I wanted him to be a little oversized. He's about 40 to 43 inches in height, the finished product. So I cut the legs at about 25 inches, and then I'm going to go ahead and bend the feet of it at about 5 inches so I can screw that down to my wood base plate. And here I'm just cutting all the little sections I need before I start assembling. This is my PVC glue I'm going to be using, and I'm just going to go ahead and coat the inside of these couplers and then around the PVC pipe itself before I start to assemble everything. And this is for the hips here, so putting my little 90-degree elbows in the hips, and then I'll be attaching my leg portions here in a second. Now, I want to make one thing clear when you're putting your armatures together. You want to make sure you have your pose set before you start this process and glue it in, at least at the hip joints and the shoulders, and what position you're going to have the arms and legs. This way you don't have to try to take these apart, because I've tried to take the PVC pipes apart after they've been glued up, and it's kind of a pain. So you want to make sure you have your positioning right before you go on to the next step. And here I'm just taking my heat gun, and like I do with most of my armatures, my PVC armatures, I'm bending them down at the ankle here, so that way I can screw that PVC pipe into the wood base plate. Now, in hindsight, after doing this, and what I'll be doing in the future, is making sure that once I screw my armature down to the wood base plate, that I also put a bead of great stuff along that PVC and over the PVC pipe at the foot, just to make sure it's glued into place really well. Now also too, I want to mention, when you're screwing when you're heating the ankle portion of it, of your project, and you're screwing it down, you want to make sure that the ankles, or where the legs begin, aren't bowed either forward or backward too much, because it's going to throw your character off balance. So when you go to finish him up and put the monster on, it's going to be heavy in one direction or the other, and you have a likely chance of it falling. So make sure you have those basically 90 degrees, your legs 90 degrees to the ground, so you have a nice balanced piece. Like I was mentioning before too, at the shoulders, I made sure I had the right positioning I wanted, because I want my character to be holding like a lollipop, so I want his arm outstretched. So I made sure to get that cemented in before I glued anything together. And here I'm just using my spray adhesive. We're going to go ahead and attach all of our insulation foam here, or I'm sorry, my upholstery foam, to fill up the character. Now I'm making sure to go low, because I don't have any onesies. I have to create the illusion of onesies, and those are typically really baggy in the legs and the crotch area, so making sure to go ahead and create that look. So when I put my MonsterMud material over the top, it really sells the character and the look of the character. Now I'm only using my upholstery foam here to create the look, but at the feet, I probably would, like I said a little bit ago, put that expanding foam around the pipe to really cement that down, and to also create a foot to make it easier, make an easier shape for you guys to go ahead and create the feet out of. All right, I just wanted to give you guys a little closer look here at this stage. Now what I did was use that upholstery foam to fill out the form to give it that illusion of a onesie. So real baggy in the crotch area, and then baggy, you know, as far as the feet go, I actually went ahead and just used more upholstery foam. So when I wrap this with my MonsterMud, it's going to give that appearance. Now for the hands, I'll be doing them the same way I've done my prop hands in the past. If you guys haven't seen that video, I'll link it down in the description below so you guys can check it out. But I'll attach those hands. I put little 1/8 inch holes here that I'll be attaching the hands with wire and maybe a little bit of a spray foam, just to make sure they're super secure. And then I'll sculpt the fingers, probably with a foam air dry clay. But this is what it looks like so far. As far as his trick-or-treat bag, I actually have a pillowcase for this. Hopefully you guys can see this. But I'll attach it to his hand here, and then we'll MonsterMud the entire thing. But this is the armature stage, and he's looking pretty good so far. I'm happy with it. So now we're going to get over to MonsterMudding, and then that big old foam head. Okay, so now that our foam has sat probably for about a good 2 to 3 hours, I'm gonna go ahead and carve out that section so they're flat, and then I can glue them together with more expanding foam. So make sure you're using a very sharp blade so you can make this a lot easier and safer for you. You don't want that blade to slip if it gets stuck, if it's dull. So make sure you got a nice sharp blade. Just cut them flat. Now, one thing in hindsight I probably would have done is around the face of the character. He's a little more round Sam than the one I created here, so you might want to just take your razor blade and bevel that edge a little bit so you have more of that rounded look that Sam's head has. So while the head dries here, now I'm going to go ahead and attach the hands. And like I've done in a lot of my other videos, as far as making hands, I make them really easy. Just a little bit of wire, 16 gauge wire, and some foam. And I pre-drilled a hole into the wrist like I showed you in the PVC pipe. Now I did the same thing to the palm of the hand. I'm just screwing them in place. And I'll be taking some more great stuff here just to spray along that wrist to create that rigid wrist that I need. And once that cures, we'll get over to the MonsterMud section of it. I always recommend using your expanding foam when it comes to any joints that you have. That way everything is strong, because MonsterMud, again, I always talk about this, but the weight of MonsterMud it's extremely heavy when it's wet. Once it dries, it becomes a lot lighter, and it's really actually another structural support once it dries, but while it's wet, it's super heavy. So you want to make sure your armature is completely strong and is able to withhold the amount of weight you're going to be putting on it. Now, again, for the MonsterMud process, anytime you can get away with dipping your cloth into the actual MonsterMud mixture, the better and the longer it's going to last. Now, you see me doing a few of my projects where I just apply the MonsterMud directly over the material once it's already on the character. But for this guy, I wanted to make sure he was rock solid all the way through. So I was able to kind of get away with that and actually put the MonsterMud over the top of the entire thing after I dipped the material in. So now I'm just working in some of the detail around the feet and the body to make it look like a onesie. And I wanted to get it in one sheet as much as possible. Now, even though I'm doing sections for the arms here, the finished result you can't tell, and it looks perfect. So just kind of trust the process. Make sure you're doing your layers intelligently. That means like you're thinking about how it's going to overlap on each other to make it look like one cohesive piece. Doing that one big piece of material over the legs in the front area was best, and then I can kind of blend the seams at the arms and the shoulders. So this worked out perfectly. Again, you want to make sure that your material is completely saturated. So even if you dip your material in and you have spots like you can see here for the headpiece, I do go back in with just handfuls of MonsterMud and make sure I smear that into the actual material to cover any of that actual material so you can hard coat this and it's weatherproof. Now, although I did measure my pieces before and did a dry fitting for this character, some of the material, once it's wet, becomes a little bit bigger and longer. So I do cut it back at the end, especially with this burlap here. So I dip my burlap in, I'll be putting it over the head the same way, and then you'll see there's a lot of excess around the chest and the back. So off camera later on, I went ahead and just took a pair of scissors while it was still wet, because once it dries, it's almost impossible to cut. And then I went ahead and just cut all the excess off to make sure it looked most like the character. And I'm taking just little bits of scrap burlap to create the patches that he has on his legs and on his arms, stuff like that. So just to give a little more contrast, a little more texture to the character as well. Play around with different materials when you're doing your MonsterMud as well. You really open yourself up to a lot of different possibilities when it comes to even different kind of characters that you're doing. Now here I opted to use the cement clay. I really enjoy this cement clay. If you guys haven't used that, check out the video where I show you the recipe and then how you use it. But this stuff, man, as far as like the cost, how cost effective it is, it's a great value. Once you get the materials you need, you're going to get batch after batch after batch on pennies for the dollar, really, when it comes to a really cool, good, usable clay. So I decided to opt with the cement clay just because it doesn't expand as it dries or I lose detail. So when I'm using my foam clay, I'll do it for my bigger characters because it's a lot cheaper and it's easy to work with. But for these smaller characters where I can do a little more detail, I want a clay that's going to be able to handle that amount of detail and then hold, because the foam clay tends to expand as it dries. Now, even though I can go back and sand it after, it's just another step, and it never comes out as nice as once you just sculpt it. So this stuff here, because I'm only doing the hands and a little bit of sculpture in the actual face, I went ahead and used it. And it's perfect. It dried perfect. It's super rock hard, and it goes along with the rest of the body. So it's weatherproof, so I can put it outside if I want to for Halloween. Again, you can use the foam clay, but this is the reason I did mine. Now, as you can see, I'm going ahead and I put these little bits of clay for the knuckles here. You want to make sure you take your tool and blend those edges as well, just so there's no cracking. Because if you don't blend the edges when you add a little bit more clay, you will get some kind of cracking in your final design. So make sure you go and blend those edges with a little bit of water and your tool. Now here, I went ahead and used a little bit of foam clay just for that middle seam, and then I'll go back and paint that with MonsterMud once it's dry. But when I started to do the face and something around the mouth, I realized that the cement clay was going to be a better option. Now, I only mixed one batch of cement clay to get that look, so you didn't really need much for what I did here. All I'm doing here is taking my tool, taking those little beads of clay and blending the edges into the actual material so it stays and it's nice and strong. Okay, so I just want to give you guys a little closer look at our Sam character here. You guys can see the detail right there on the hands and the little sculpt job. Now again, this was just a cement clay recipe. I used one batch for the hands here, for the little details in the face, and also for the other hand in the back. Now, one thing I did want to mention too is, as far as the base plate, because I put this little trick or treat bag here, I had to make the base plate a little wider. So this is probably about 20 inches for that base plate to cut across, so this bad boy would sit on top of it no problem. One thing I do want to mention with these MonsterMud characters, I had this guy sitting in my garage for about 2 days, and he didn't dry completely because he was in the shade, he wasn't in the sun. So if you can get these guys in direct sunlight, definitely go ahead and do that. That way they're going to dry up for you. When I did get back from my trip and put him outside, he dried up within the afternoon, and now he's, super rock hard and solid. So we're going to get to the next step. So I just wanted to give you a little more detailed shot of how he's looking so far. So all we got to do now is kick out the paint, and this dude is going to be absolutely amazing. So let's get to that next step. All right, to jump in the painting process, at this stage, the MonsterMud has probably been drying for a good 4 to 5 days. Like I said earlier, I was out of town for a few days and I was sitting in the garage, but once I put it in the sun, it was able to cure much quicker. So with MonsterMud, make sure you get your pieces out in the sun if entirely possible. Now, to do all my projects, I always start with a coat of black latex, just regular house paint. I found that it gives the best protection when it comes to your final designs. And it's a lot better when you're using your airbrush to get things painted when you have a black base to start with. And here I just mixed up with my acrylic paints, my craft acrylic paints, a nice orange color, that's SAM orange, and I'm just going to give maybe 2 or 3 full coats over the entire costume. You want to make sure that your base coat is a nice coverage and it's all smooth and the same level of coverage as well, so your next stages will be a lot easier. Now here I'm taking a little mauve color, and wherever there's creases or there's depth to the character, I'm just going to be painting this color in so he looks more vibrant, looks like he comes to life a little bit more, a little more depth to the character. This guy was so much fun to make. I had an amazing time going ahead and painting him up and bringing him to life. And it's one of those characters that I probably wouldn't have done on my own. So thank you guys for requesting this one. I had a lot of fun making him. And it just kind of opened up a whole nother level of character I can make now to go along with this little, because he's going to be like a porch character for Halloween. So you put him next to your porch or by the front door. And I think he does so much for the decor. So I'll probably do a lot more characters in this same fashion for you guys in the future. So if there's something you want to see, like, always make sure you write me down in the comment section below. I try to get to my comments as soon as they come in. So if you have any questions about today's project that maybe I didn't cover, feel free to contact me anytime. We're getting to the end of our video here today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's project. I'll be doing many more videos for you guys. So if there's something you want to see, like I said, reach out to me. But until next time, happy haunting. I hope you guys enjoyed today's SAM tutorial. This was definitely such a fun build to be able to bring to you guys, so thank you so much for requesting it. As always, if there's a character or creature you'd like to see me recreate in the future, or maybe you had a question about today's video, please write me down in the comment section below so I can answer that. If you guys haven't subscribed by now, I don't know what you're doing, so please do that. And make sure to share this video around with your friends, because I think everyone deserves a SAM of their own. What do you think? But until next time, keep building things, stay creative, and don't forget to go wild. I'm Gio from Carvalho Creations, and I'll see you, and yeah, you in the corner. I'll see you too next time. How scary.